afternoon. A very warm welcome to all of you. I'm Meha Bhardwaj Auto, and today I have someone extremely special with me on the show. On Game On today is someone who has terrorized bowlers all over the world. He has more than 24,000 runs across all formats, and he has the most number of sixes in international cricket in all formats, and I'm sure he must be in the top 5 of all 3 formats separately. There's a reason he's called Universe Boss. So I have with me Chris Gayle. Welcome, Chris. Okay, whenever I see your Insta feed, you're either partying on a yacht or you're playing baseball and you're celebrating like Cristiano Ronaldo. What brings you to India?
Oh, that doesn't sound like Chris Gayle, doing all those things, those fun stuff. Actually, I'm here in India. It's good to be back in India, first and foremost. And, I want to say thanks for the IVPL to actually having me, the Indian Veteran Premier League, to actually having me here. And I'm looking to be a part of such a thing as well. Being a veteran now, because I've set the standard over the years by dominating, so I can be called a veteran, just like a lot of superstars who have actually retired from the game as well. And I'm looking forward to actually share the field and the dressing room with the veteran players, coming up in November. This tournament will be held here in India again. So, yeah, it's good to be a part of such an initiative.
Are you cool with the word veteran?
I am a veteran. I'm an icon. I'm a master. I'm the universe boss. You name it. Chris Gayle fit it.
Oh yes, you are the universe boss. But at the moment, West Indies is really missing you. What do you make of the predicament that the team finds itself in, on the verge of being knocked out of the World Cup qualifiers?
It's not good. It's not good. The qualifiers, it's not good at all. It's not looking good for West Indies. I'm gutted. I'm disappointed. And I'll be even more disappointed not seeing West Indies in the World Cup here in India. I think that would probably be the first time, 2 times champion in West Indies not in the World Cup. We had a good start in the qualifiers, and then we lost both games against Zimbabwe and Netherlands. Beat us current 374 runs. I just think they could have actually defended that, and they kind of get some early wickets, and they sort of relax a bit there, and then Netherlands. Actually, a team that's very hungry, World Cup qualifiers as well. Once they get a sniff, they're always going to look to, capitalize on that, and they did just that. And they hurt us, so we're going into the Super 6 now without a point. So they said there's a chance, and once there's a chance, there is hope. So I'm praying they can win, 6 games. They just need to beat, especially a team like Sri Lanka. It's going to be difficult to beat Sri Lanka. In Zimbabwe as well, where the conditions suitable for spinners. But like I said, I'm just gutted to see where we're at now. But things overall, been if you put everything in perspective, we just have a new coach as well, so you can't even look to point fingers at a particular new coach like a Darren Sammy. We have been in this situation before. I've played in qualifiers before as well, so this goes to say that there's a lot of things need to put in place, when it comes on to West Indies cricket, and try to separate yourself from, to be in this position, once more again. So let's see what happens the next couple of days, I should say, in these qualifiers.
Yeah, but it is shocking to see a team like West Indies struggling in the way they are in the qualifiers. You spoke about how they played against Netherlands as well. What seems to be ailing West Indies cricket?
It's always been a lot of changes. When we say we're turning the corner, there's something always stopping us from actually go to that distance. We have a new president as well. Just got a new president as well, Mr. Shallow, replacing Vicky Skerritt. And like I mentioned, we have a new test coach, a new ODI coach as well. So, it will take time to actually gel. Darren Samuel actually needs a bit of time to gel with these players as well. And then, everybody can actually put their 2 cents together. And then, we can work as a team, but you're just coming in now, and then, a solid rush, and an expectation is not going to be, that great as well, but we just have to give him a bit of chance and, see what happens.
Okay, moving on, Chris, is Bazball sustainable?
It is. You're talking about Ashes now?
Yes, I am. And England could be in trouble once again. I mean, they're trying to be aggressive, but it isn't working.
I was traveling, so I didn't get a chance to watch yesterday highlights or the day's play, but judging from the first test, we know in England been playing a lot of aggressive cricket. Australia kind of, sticking to their zone, sticking to their strength as well. The Ashes, the build-up to it as well is fantastic, and we love watching the Ashes. It's a phenomenal first test match as well. It was a great test match, and the captain led from the front, Pat Cummins, brought his team home, with the bat, not with the ball. So that's something, superb as well, for him. It's going to be difficult for England now. With that, a win like that for Australia and a loss like that for England, it's going to be difficult to catch up against a team like Australia after coming off a win like that. That buzz and that extra drive a team will get from such a win is always going to be difficult to beat. Such a team. But, the first innings is going to be key for England. It's how well they bat. The first of all, get the next 5 wickets. And then it's how well they bat in that first innings. Because if they go 2-0 down, we know it's going to be a crack of a series.
Okay, let's talk about your good friend Virat Kohli. Should he quit one format to prolong his career, Chris?
Why should he quit when he's the best player around? You don't want the best player to quit. And that's what happened, when they say players to quit, they try and push you aside when there's a lot still left, within a particular player. Let the player decide what works for him, what he wants, especially a player like Virat Kohli as well, who has been dominant in all forms of the game, all formats of the game as well. So you don't want to say, hey, quit this one and focus on this one. You don't want to do that. Let him decide it when he wants to quit, what he wants to do, what particular time as well, because the stats and the history speak for itself there as well. And he's India #1 player.
Okay, Chris, do you miss playing in the IPL?
Get me in the IPL next year, yes.
Okay, what do you miss the most about playing in the IPL?
I miss the atmosphere. I miss that atmosphere. I miss the chants. We won 6. I miss all of those little things.
Yeah.
It just overall every little thing as well. The close games, the match-winning innings. Being the man to hit the ball out of the park all the time as well. It's a thriller one. And I'd love to hunt for an IPL trophy as well. But yeah, those are the little things I miss. So, but like I say, nothing lasts forever.
Well, we miss you in the IPL. Okay, Chris, I've got to wrap this up, I know, but there's a damning report about English cricket. 4,000 people, they've given evidence about how cricket in England is racist, sexist and elitist, and these problems are deep-rooted and widespread. Your reaction to this report, given there have been many iconic Caribbean players like yourself who've played for counties in England?
I haven't seen it, to be honest with you. I haven't seen, but it's good you brought that to my attention. It's been difficult, pretty much, not only within England, around the world. There's been a lot of struggle from a black point of view as well, if you want to put it that and be straight and get to the point. The Muslims suffer as well when it comes down to that as well. And, it's just a challenge. We always have to be fighting like 10 times, 10 times to actually stay within a team, 10 times to get a chance to prove ourselves, so it's difficult, we've been through the struggle, and I grew up in pretty much in that sort of arena as well, within my country as well. So I can, speculate, I can't speculate, I can add my 2 cents to that as well. And we need changes in that regard. So hopefully, things can be even Stevens for everybody as well. I was talking about male and female as well, because we want the women them to actually, know their worth and know and be treated, accordingly to as well. So those are the things. What's coming out of those things you've mentioned. I need to take a deeper look into it as well before I can speak more on it as well. But yes, I love to see these things highlight. And these things need to stop as well, and treat us treat us equal. It's all about equality.
There you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Chris Gayle. Chris, thank you so much for taking the time out. Thank you once again, and hope to see you more in India, whether it's Veterans League or otherwise. Thanks again. Okay, now fierce on the field, completely cool off it, as you could see. Let's introduce our guests as well on the show. Jamie Orter joins us. Vedam Jaishankar is here with us as well, and we'll take all the, burning cricket topics of the day. Let me first take your reactions on that interview, Jamie. A lot of people seem to think that, Chris Gayle, the six-hitting machine, but people also have to be reminded that, he's in that elite club of a player who's scored 2 triple hundreds in tests.
Absolutely, and I think when it comes to Chris Gayle, a lot of it is just the showmanship.
Yeah.
I remember he started his career in around 2000, if I'm not mistaken, and just to see the way that he's embraced the game, he's had problems. He's been outspoken. He's taken on the board on several occasions. He's not held back in speaking his views on what he feels about Test cricket, the one-day game. He's taken on anyone who's made strong comments. He's courted controversy. He's had his dark days. He's had bad days. But I think what he's given, I've seen IPL matches when he's going, and especially when he was with RCB, the Chinnaswamy fans loved him. They loved De Villiers. You could argue that at times Gayle got more love than Virat Kohli at the Chinnaswamy, and that's what he does, And you just see, he's whether he's taking a question from you which is light or about the IPL, or whether it's serious like that damning report on the ECB. He's rather forthright and surprisingly rather eloquent with his words. He admitted that he was not too sure of the report, or he'd not seen the report, but he was able to give his opinion. So, and like you rightly said, he has test double a triple century. 333 is what he wears on his jersey.
Exactly.
So many fans see him as this flamboyant, six-hitting machine. But on his day, when he wanted to get into that zone, he could score test triple centuries. So overall, just a very entertaining, very fascinating cricketer, which I think we've all had the pleasure of watching for 20 years now.
Yeah, absolutely. But he is Vedam T20's original, first superstar, He was hitting sixes when others were trying to figure the format out.
Yeah, absolutely. But one thing we should recognize about Chris Gayle's batting, he was not bang bang right from the first ball. He used to graft for runs initially, settle down, and then go for runs. I think that's one of the reasons why Kohli and he really couldn't get along as an opening pair, because Kohli depended a lot also the same way. But Kohli wanted to run quickly, take those twos and threes and make use of the field, especially for RCB when we saw both of them opening the batting. It actually was slower than normal. But Chris Gayle had the ability to make up, He could make up with a lot of sixes and fours, and everybody knew that. It's a question of just waiting. But Kohli, I don't think that gelled well. So when they got rid of Chris Gayle, I think it was more because of his inability to run as quickly, both with Kohli and with De Villiers. Having said that, I must say that sport is for young people and anybody over 35. Everybody is welcome to play. There's no problem. Everybody's welcome to play. But we'd like to remember Chris Gayle as that batsman who was, like you said, he was hammering everybody out of the park. And especially in the Chinnaswamy Stadium, we saw how brilliantly he batted, time and again, whacking those sixes and fours. But I'm not sure if he is that cricketer. He can continue playing gentlemen, masters, whatever.
Veterans
But
League.
I think I would like to remember him as that big hitter and that outstanding cricketer rather than what he is today.
Now, he's talking about how he's disappointed and gutted in the way West Indies have played in the qualifiers. Jamie, how shocked have you been, given that we watched this team, do so well? And to now see them struggling in the qualifiers the way they lost to Netherlands, what seems to have gone wrong?
Look, I think maybe the word demise is not entirely accurate, but we've seen for many years, many people have commented, analysts from the Caribbean, forget people outside the Caribbean. I remember Tony Cozier, Fazir Mohammed, these cricket analysts, who were really loved in the West Indies. They've highlighted various issues why West Indies are not the strength that they used to be. You know, we've seen regional conflict between the islands. We've seen the lure of T20s. I mean, I don't want to get into all that. It just comes down to I think the focus is not there. I don't think they lack for talent as a region, but perhaps the focus is just not there. And when I say focus, I mean it's not without coincidence that they became the first team to win the T20 World Cup twice under Darren Sammy, right? Now that West Indies team was not an outstanding team in the history of West Indies teams, but it had Gale, it had Dwayne Smith, it had Dwayne Bravo, it had Darren Sammy, who by the West Indies standard was a very average player, even below average. But he had a knack of getting the best out of those teams, right? They don't seem to have that kind of leadership. I mean, you see Shea Hope is a captain one day. Shea Hope has a long way to go to even establishing himself across formats. They tried Nicholas Puran, who I don't think is a natural leader. Jason Holder had his time under the sun. But it just seems to me, from a very, very distant perspective, looking into West Indies cricket, it's not about the talent. It's just about the focus. They seem more, a lot of the players seem more keen to play leagues. We've seen the row between the players and the board, the players and the players' agency against the boards or the players' body. And it just seems that no one's really able to figure out what's there. Yes, they've been on decline. And to see them now almost on the verge of not making the World Cup, honestly, should not surprise too many people.
Okay, let's talk about Bazball as well. Vedam, he's talking about how it is sustainable. But at the same time, it's not going to be easy for England, and we're already seeing it in the second test. He spoke about how it'll be difficult in the way they lost the first test for England to bounce back against a team like Australia, and we're seeing it. And somehow, even when it doesn't seem to be working, England are carrying on with that strategy of going hammer and tongs at the bowler, and it's got the world divided now. There are some who are saying this is foolish, then others are saying I'd rather watch this. And it's continuing. It's happening today. Today's day 3.
I said this right during the first test. Bazball is only a means to an end. And I also mentioned that I am really fascinated by Australian strategy, to counter it. Even if you look at this test, forget about the first test, even if you look at this test, Australia has been nimble. They've been able to change their strategy every now and then. At one point, they're bowling bouncers, next point, they're bowling regulars. And, that is the hallmark of a great team. England has got only one gear, and they think that's the gear which will take them to the top.
Yeah.
And Australia seemed to have countered that, the way they bowled those short pitch deliveries and with the field that they had. I mean, they knew that these guys will do nothing but just go after them. And they just had to wait, and there'll be a bad shot coming. So I think England has to reassess, and they will. But once they lose 2 tests, they will reassess and wonder if this is the way to go. Because, there's no point in losing match after match and being pig-headed about your strategy. Your strategy is not working. It might have worked against lesser teams.
Yeah.
But against a team which has seen this happening, which has seen and studied you and knows how to counter it, and I think they don't have another plan. They don't have an alternate plan. I mean, they're lucky that, they won the toss on a green top. They took 4 fast bowlers. And who was their best bowler? Joe Root, who's a part-time spinner. So that itself tells you that everything is not kosher with England. They are not sure of their strategy. They believe that Bazball is the way to go. But it might have been the way to go against New Zealand or one of the lesser teams. But against an Australian side, which has come prepared. The big thing about this Australian side is it's come prepared. It knows how to handle these situations. And that is where England is found wanting. They don't have an alternate strategy. Like you said, they're just going on and on with that. I mean, how foolish can you get? If something is not working, you need to rework and do something else. They're not doing that. They're playing the same way and losing the same way.
Yeah,
and I won't be surprised if they lose this test also. They're already in deep trouble. And for all you know, they might lose this inside 4.5 days.
Yeah, which is the other thing, Jamie, that we spoke about this even after the first, the first test, where you lose one and wow, the way you played is brilliant, very positive in the way Ben Stokes declared on the very first day. But at the end of the day, are you going to constantly say results don't matter as long as we go out there and play our brand of cricket?
Not when you lose 2-3 test matches in a row. 1, okay, 2, maybe you're outplayed. when it crosses that, people are going to start asking. We've already seen. I mean, they lost one match by the narrowest of margins, and we saw people like Jeffrey Boycott and others say, what is going on? Try and justify this. I think all three of us have been on shows before where this has come up, and Bazball is entirely a pitch dominated approach or pitch dominated tagline. England perhaps now find themselves wondering, because we've seen two benign tracks. Birmingham Edgbaston, that was flat. This is rather flat. Not much is going on. If they lose this test match, I think the lead is 112 right now, and Stuart Broad is spraying the ball all over the place. Not good signs. England and Baz McCullum and Ben Stokes are going to have to reevaluate. You cannot say, "Oh, look, the last time they actually played here 4 years ago, we were down. We had to win to stay alive. Ben Stokes played the innings of his life." That Ben Stokes is not around. The current Ben Stokes, as a player, as a batsman, as a bowler, is a shadow of himself, right? Had Ben Stokes been in the same form he was in the 2019 Ashes, you could have said, "Hey, hang on, they can win this match, they can come back." He's not there. So when your leader is making decisions which are surprising you, as in declarations, which are not working, which are backfiring, Moeen Ali probably, history will judge that recall rather harshly. So it's not just about your Bazball approach. When your main player is now letting you down, insecurity will creep in. So let's see how this match goes, but it doesn't look good for them right now.
Okay, now we've been speaking to Chris Gayle, if you've just joined us, and he was there right at the beginning of the show. We spoke to him, and we are going to put that clip out on News9 Live as well. So you can go back and watch that particular clip. But we've got a small clip that I'd like to play where he's talking about Virat Kohli. And the question that was put to him was about whether Virat Kohli, to prolong his career, whether he should quit one format. That's what I asked him. And if you could put that clip out, this is what he had to say.
Why should he quit when he's the best player around? You don't want the best player to quit. And that's what happened, when they say players to quit, they try and push you aside when there's a lot still left, within a particular player. Let the player decide what works for him, what he wants, especially a player like Virat Kohli as well, who has been dominant in all forms of the game, all formats of the game as well. So you don't want to say, "Hey, quit this one and focus on this one." You don't want to do that. Let him decide it when he wants to quit, what he wants to do, what particular time as well, because the stats and the history speak for itself there as well. And he's India #1 player.
Your take, gentlemen, on what Chris Gayle said about Virat Kohli. I mean, I know that he's not going to say that Virat Kohli should. He's not going to give any headline to us. But having said that, is that something that should be taken seriously by Virat Kohli? Vedam?
See, if you want to push Virat Kohli out of the team, you need a replacement. Who is the replacement? If you're going to build the team, actually you have to build it around him. You have to get rid of the others. Some of the senior guys who are, like I said, pushing above 35 and struggling. You got to get rid of them and keep Virat Kohli there, because he's shown that he's got the talent, he's got the hunger, and he's got the earnestness. He's the one who will lift the team, he'll lift the players, and he's the guy you should have around and build a team around him. Why would you? Is there somebody else who's better than him? If there is, then go ahead, sack him and get the other person who's better than him. But right now in Indian cricket, we don't have. We're searching for replacements. We're searching for replacements even for the number 6, number 7, that kind of a situation. When you look at that, I think Kohli could well continue for another couple of years unless you suddenly burst upon and get a replacement who is better. Otherwise, it's just cussedness trying to get him out of the way.
Okay, let's move on now to the other big news of the day, where Indian opener Shikhar Dhawan, he's likely to lead the Indian team at the Asian Games 2023 in Hangzhou, China, which are being held from the 23rd of September to the 8th of October. That's not all. Former India batter and director of the National Cricket Academy, VVS Lakshman, he will be the coach of the team. Now, BCCI had earlier refused to send the men's and the women's team at the Asian Games, saying they had prior commitments. But they've now agreed to send the teams, and it will be a B squad for the men's team, because the main team will be in the middle of the 50 overs World Cup at home. for Shikhar Dhawan, that means he's definitely not going to the World Cup. The chances were anyway less, but now, if he is going to be the captain of that team at the Asia, then he's definitely not going for the World Cup. Now, this is also because Shubman Gill, he's been in tremendous form at the top of the order. Now, Dhawan led India in the ODIs for most of 2022, given Rohit and Hardik and the team management were focusing on the T20Is. Now it seems they've moved on from Shikhar Dhawan, and this is further indication, like I've been saying, that he's not in their World Cup plans. It'll be interesting to see who all will be part of this B squad. Will the likes of Rinku Singh, Sai Sudarshan, Tilak Verma will they be given an opportunity? It'll be interesting to see. Also, for all of you wondering, cricket in Asian Games, how come? Well, it's not the first time. Cricket was part of two editions of Asiad in 2010 and 2014, and now cricket has returned to the program for the Hangzhou game. India didn't send a squad then, but they are sending now for these games. I don't know. I think it's always exciting to see cricketers in multi-sport events, Jamie. And I also feel like this is a huge opportunity for these guys as well. I mean, it's one thing you're playing a bilateral series or even a World Cup here. You're going to be staying in a village with other athletes from other sporting disciplines. So, you'll feel like a community really, all Indians together. You'll also get to see athletes from other countries, and your top athletes, some of them would be here. So it's great that India is sending this team, and I think they have no choice but to send this B team.
I would have to go with that last bit of what you said. They had no choice. Also, somebody inside the system must have realized, hey, look, when a World Cup is going on, no one's really going to be watching this. Whichever squad is sent is going to be under very little pressure. And it's also a damn good chance to win something, right? It's been 10 years since India won any kind of trophy or medal or anything. And just given how depleted whatever opposition India comes up against, be it Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, China, Thailand, whichever Asian team is there, India are going to be the best because India's best strength right now. And you rightly touched upon the fact that a lot of the IPL stars from this year might very well be there, So if that squad is picked with the balance of experience, like a Shikhar Dhawan, a Krunal Pandya, maybe a Nitish Rana, if names like these, and then you throw in Sai Sudarshan, Tilak Verma, who else is there? I mean, there's a lot of names from the IPL, which come up. That team is going to 100%, I have no doubt, come back with a medal. And what better way right now when the whole of the nation really, beats the drums about any accolade we can get. So from that perspective, it's a fantastic opportunity. In the bigger picture, it's not going to really matter so much because I think it's going to be very diluted competition. The second main takeaway for me was, yes, you said they moved on from Shikhar Dhawan. Is this maybe some way of saying, hey, thank you for everything you've done? Maybe it's that dreaded farewell, not match, because we've discussed about that. Maybe it's some kind of a farewell token. Though, like I said last time we were here with Vedam as well, that farewell concept, I'm not a big fan of. But it could be some way, like, look at this picture. I mean, it could be VVS Lakshman's way of saying, chalo, Shikhar Dhawan ko kuch dete hain on his way out. I don't know.
Yeah, it seems like a fair point, but I also feel like this was more to balance a young squad out, Vedam, where, you're just saying that, look, we're going to get all the youngsters in and then just have the experience of Shikhar Dhawan thrown in.
Yeah, Meha, when you look at the tournament itself, whether it's Sri Lanka or Pakistan or Bangladesh, they are also going to be involved with the World Cup. So they'll also be sending their B teams or secondary teams. So for India, it's a great opportunity to try out their bench strength. We've been talking so much about the bench strength, and let's see how they perform on the big stage. Like you correctly said, yes, you need some experienced hands right at the top to guide them. But Shikhar Dhawan's job is not to be only grooming those youngsters, but he's got to get the cup home. If he's going to lose to a second-rate Pakistan team or a second-rate Sri Lankan team, that's not going to work out very well for his farewell or whatever. So he needs to ensure that India comes home with the medal, and he needs to also ensure that the youngsters whom he has been given, they gel together, they perform together, and they've all been experienced in the IPL. So I think we have a very good chance of getting a good medal, when I say good medal, I meant gold.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be satisfied with anything less than gold, considering that others do not have the depth that we have.
Yeah, no, the other thing also being that I think the BCCI have made the right decision in sending a team. Earlier they'd said that they were not going to send a team because they have prior commitments. Even if it's a B team, C team, we've got to send a team for Asian Games, for any of these multi-sport events, because somebody or the other is going to get an opportunity. It's an experience for that team. So kudos to them for having changed their mind. Now let's move on to the other big news of the day. Former India bowler Ajit Agarkar. He's all set to become the chairman of selectors after he applied for the vacant spot in the men's senior committee. The position was vacant since February after Chetan Sharma resigned following TV sting operation. Reports suggest that BCCI officials in fact got in touch with Ajit Agarkar with a promise to increase the chief selector's annual salary, which currently is 1 crore. He also quit his job as the assistant coach of Delhi Capitals yesterday and had in fact applied for the same post in 2020 but didn't get it. Agarkar has played 26 test matches, 191 ODIs and 4 T20Is for India. He was part of the 2007 T20 World Cup winning team, which was captained by MS Dhoni. Now, the current members of the senior selection committee are Subroto Banerjee, Salil Ankola, S. Sharath and Shiv Sundar Das, who has filled in as interim chairman after former chairman Chetan Sharma, he resigned in February. Now, the Indian team is in transition, we know, and it is imperative that the BCCI finds a selection panel which has the vision for the future, and we've been talking about it on our show. That's not all. The talk's also been around the stature of the present selectors and how they don't wield enough power to make big decisions. Agarkar is a big name, comes with experience, but will he be able to make those tough calls? We'll only know in time to come. But gentlemen, your reaction, Ajit Agarkar all set to become the chairman of selectors. Jamie?
Yeah, if reports are to believe, and he is in line, at least after 6, 7 years, there's someone of stature, someone of repute, right? Because you look again, I mean, I mentioned this before, since the Virat Kohli Ravi Shastri tenure began, somehow the selection committee was trivialized, if you get where I'm going with this. And the current names you just picked off, I think the one thing that stood out for me from the reports that I read was that they're saying now you have to have played 7 tests or 20 ODIs, something like that, right? Because Subroto Banerjee did not play more than I think 5 matches for India. S. Sharath never played for India. Ankola probably played combined across formats 20 matches, and then S.S. Das was the most experienced. He probably played 15 to 20 test matches. That, to my mind, is just not enough for you to be picking players of the stature of whatever, Virat Kohli, Rohit Sharma, whatever. It's not just picking them, but having to deal with them. How do you drop them? Because it's always been an uncomfortable spot when any big figure Indian player needs to be spoken to. Forget phased out, forget dropped, spoken to. Okay, bhai, hum is raah se ja rahe hain. We need to have that talk. And that's why Dilip Vengsarkar, Sandeep Patil, these were the selectors which had the spine to confront, the big names. So from that aspect, I'm very glad to hear that it most likely will be Ajit Agarkar. I think we discussed this on one of the shows as well. What was holding back big names, I mean, Agarkar and even bigger, was the pay issue, right? They can earn so much more by being analysts, by being pundits, by being commentators. And it's a much, much easier job than selecting the toughest team across 3 formats in the world. So if someone like an Agarkar is financially lured, I think it's a very good decision, because I'm talking purely from a stature point of view. He will be the biggest chief selector in the last, I don't know, decade maybe, less than 8, 9 years.
I think so much of it will also depend on the kind of freedom he gets, Vedam, because it's one thing choosing someone with heft, someone who comes in with that experience, but the BCCI, I mean, there has to be a very clear-cut role in how they see him making some of those calls, right? Because you can come with the name, you can have that stature, but if you don't have the freedom to take tough calls, you're back to square one.
Right at the beginning, you said something about the BCCI making him an offer he can't refuse. It sounds like Godfather, a line straight from Godfather. But But that's how Indian cricket is. If you really look at the present setup, I'm not
Hmm.
talking only of the national selection, even the state selections, if you go, you don't have selectors. Nobody wants to be a selector. Whatever Lodha has done has
Hmm.
really not worked for Indian cricket. This conflict of interest is quite crazy. What is a cricketer going to select if not a cricket team? Is he going to select a football team? I can't understand why you're calling it a conflict of interest. Yes, there's a lot more money to be made as a commentator or as a mentor or whatever with these IPL teams. So why would you waste time trying to be a selector where, like you correctly said, now they've hiked it to a crore of rupees? And ultimately, all these guys have a use by date. You can't expect them to cling on till about 60, 70 or whatever. So they need to make that quick money in that 4 years, 5 years. And that's what they're all gunning for. And I don't blame them at all because the
Hmm.
system is like that and they need that money. Luckily, Indian cricketers don't struggle like you see former Australian or English cricketers struggle. They are not on the dole. They're not on the streets. And so when you look at this present selection committee, what was Sharath supposed to do? Sharath came from junior cricket, and they said that he will bring in. He understands junior cricket a lot, and he is the guy who is going to bring in a lot of junior cricketers into the main team. Well, so far I have not seen any junior cricketer coming from the lower ranks into the main team. So he's not doing his job, or he's not being allowed to do his job, like you said. Now maybe he's got a chance at the Asian Games. Maybe he can pick the right people. But when you look at it, Shiv Sundar Das has played 23 tests. Ankola one test. Subrata
Yeah.
Banerjee one test. Sharath has not played any test.
Hmm.
I don't blame them. Tomorrow, if you or I are made selectors and given a crore of rupees, we'll also take it. There's nothing wrong. That's the nature of the beast. But don't blame them. Blame the system, which has brought them into focus. It's all right to talk about Sarkar or G.R. Vishwanath or others who did a great job, being selectors. But you need to cast your net wide. And right now, I think they're struggling. Maybe we don't need this five-member selection committee. You just choose two or three, pay them very good money and ensure that, they take the cop the blame and at the same time they deliver. Because we are now stuck with the system which I think is there right from the time BCCI was formed. And cricket has changed, the world has changed, everything has changed, but we are still stuck to an old system. Maybe they have done away with the zonal system, but why five, maybe two or three, and give him the responsibility. He has
Yeah.
done a lousy job, throw him out. I think unless we get into these things, we are always going to struggle.
Yeah, but we've also heard stories, Jamie, of how at one point, during that committee of administrators period, their tenure, everything was decided by the captain and the coach, and that they seem to have, they seem to have enough power to take all the decisions in terms of, who needs to be selected, who do they specifically want, and the selectors were just there, just as names, as people just were making up the numbers, really. So in that sense, will that change? Do you see that change happening now that you have a bigger name?
I hope so, but again, I'm not too confident. And Vedam rightly mentioned about it is the system. And just to go back, it was that whole Lodha committee COA time. That's the period where Virat Kohli and Ravi Shastri's calls were actually being taken, and we saw the selection. I mean, at least the names we just discussed, and Vedam was telling you us that they played 5, 6 test matches. The last to last one, there were people who had not even played that much. They were actually non-test cap players in the selection committee. Now, once a hue and cry was made of it, said people were moved out. So it's just a very bizarre time for the BCCI, and I think it's not gotten much better. Will Agarkar bring statute? Yes. Will he bring an astute mind? Of course. But like you said, will he be given that freedom? I don't know. I hope so. But I have a gut feeling that things will perhaps, because look, it's they've zeroed in on him. I think he's agreed at a time where Indian cricket is really struggling in two of the three formats. The T20 team is in desperate need of a reboot, of a reset. The Test team, in my mind, is borderline broken. The One Day team is still good because that's the poorest format, and in that poor format, they've done decently well. So the timing of Ajit Agarkar coming on board, if indeed he does come, I think it gives an indication that tough calls will be taken, and hopefully some change will come. Not big change, but at least the elephants in the room might actually get addressed this time around.
Mm. Now, there's one thing that we discussed on the show. I think a couple of days back was a damning report that it was an independent report that was commissioned by the English Cricket Board that found some terrible instances of racism and sexism, elitism in English cricket. We also put that question to Chris Gayle, who came right at the beginning of the show. If you're wondering where is Chris Gayle, then he was there. There's another clip that you can watch that we'll put on News9 Live. But let's just also listen into what he had to say, because remember, there are a lot of big name cricketers in the past, including Chris Gayle, who've played in English counties. And we asked him whether he faced any racism or does he have any comments on that report. And in fact, we're going to put that clip up for you before we wrap this show up, because this is an extremely important point that he's made. Listen in and come right back.
I haven't seen it, to be honest with you. I haven't seen, but it's good you brought that to my attention. It's been difficult, pretty much, not only within England, around the world. There's been a lot of struggle from a black point of view as well. If you want to put it that and be straight and get to the point, the Muslims suffer as well when it comes down to that as well. And it's just a challenge. We always have to be fighting like 10 times, 10 times to actually stay within a team, 10 times to get a chance to prove ourselves. So it's difficult. We've been through the struggle. And I grew up in pretty much in that sort of arena as well, within my country as well. So I can speculate. I can't speculate. I can add my 2 cents to that as well. And we need changes in that regard. So hopefully, things can be even Stevens for everybody as well. I was talking about male and female as well, because we want the women them to actually, know their worth and know and be treated, accordingly to as well. So those are the things. What's coming out of those things you've mentioned, I need to take a deeper look into it as well before I can speak more on it as well. But yes, I love to see these things highlight, and these things need to stop as well, and treat us treat us equal. It's all about equality.
Vedam, Chris Gayle has not read this report. He has no idea about this report, right? But it's uncanny. There are. I mean, I was reading some of the comments or some of the instances that responders had spoken about, and black cricketers all had to say the same thing, that we've had to work 10 times harder, which is exactly what he has said. He's not read the report. So it's not just one story. There are many such stories. And that's why this report is absolutely scary, because they keep talking about how this is deep-rooted, it's widespread, it's not a few bad apples. They're facing it at every point in their cricketing careers.
Yeah, one second. I just want to talk about that selection committee. Every state selection committee, whether it's under 16, under 19, under 21, or Ranji Trophy, is facing the same problem. You don't have proper cricketers. The problem is deep rooted. It's not just with the Indian team. You can check with the Bombay squad or with the Karnataka or many of these other people. These are powerhouses of cricket. They are struggling with selectors. We are in a very, very bad shape, and this will tell over the period of time. As far as Chris Gayle is concerned, yes, I accept there is racism. There is no doubt about it. But let's not forget some other things also. Yusuf Yohana was a Christian, and he was told that he had to convert to Islam if he wanted to lead Pakistan.
Absolutely.
Australia, the Polish cricketers and the Aboriginals struggled to get into the Australian team. This is a problem that is in many countries. I won't say it's worldwide, in many countries. Sri Lanka, for a long time, they had problems with the Tamils also, except for Muralidharan, who was too good. They just couldn't do anything with him. But if you look at the English setup, their entire colonization was built on racism. They have built countries on racism. That's how it is. To expect it to go away suddenly, I mean, it won't happen in a hurry. And we have seen this in the last 15 years, whenever they brought this code of conduct into the rules of the game. And it's not just in cricket. You can see it in football. You can see it in a whole lot of things. One of those, what they call Black Lives Matter, that was also a reflection, because it is a problem. It is a
Absolutely.
problem. It was a problem, and it will be a problem unless they get a lot more stringent and the education starts at a very lower level. It may be race in England, but there are subtle ways in a whole lot of other countries also which we need to eliminate.
Okay, with that, we're completely out of time. But thank you so much, Vedam and Jamie, for joining us here on this special. What do you think of our programming? Do let us know in the comments section below. And News9 Live is what you need to subscribe to for all the latest from the world of sports. That's it from us. Goodbye. Thanks for watching.